Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Portal to Justice. This is Amelia Duran, your host. It is May, let's see, May 19th. It's Saturday. Okay, so hang on just a second. Let me get Lotus. Welcome to Lunch with Lotus. Stand by.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, we've had such an interesting day.
Yeah.
It's good weather here, but it's a hard month for our household here. It's the birthday of both of Ray's children, and then between it is Mother's Day, and then so Clay's birthday, I believe, is in a few days here. So everyone should please think of. In fact, I can't even think. I've been so upset about it. Really, in a way, I've forgotten his. I think it's the 24th. Mm-hmm. That is his birthday. So we're going to contemplating celebrating his birthday.
Yeah, I think his is like 2 days before mine, or 3 days before mine, right?
Yeah. So right. Clay's birthday's the 24th, right? Yes, I did not errantly remember. It is the 24th of this month. So yes, said his mother as maker. So. So we are, ask for everyone's prayers, and also we would really wish that everyone would just wish him a happy birthday on this 24th.
Oh, yeah.
So that he can feel a great deal of love no matter where he is, as we should do for all children, but who are missing, which there are a lot of children missing, and I really want to prepare people for the number that we're going to come to know, which I believe will be in the millions. By the time this is all over, so that there will be multi-millions that have been trafficked illegally, and thereby definitely unlawfully, and also illegally, I should say, against the statutes and the law and the established treaties, and I mean just a variety of things in their very practices. And but there will be millions that we may never recover, and we may never know where they went. I mean, I really fear that that's a potentiality. And so when I talk about a Holocaust on children, I really mean a Holocaust on children, where we're finding out that they're using instruments of war to hide baby trafficking and creating orphans. I mean, we're in a construct where the military bases have CPS officers who take in the children that become orphans by the very acts of the military, facility that they're sitting in on foreign lands. That's a repugnant construct of the world, no matter who's affecting such wars or occupations. And military is a good way. It's a good metaphor in the world today. I mean, we really have militaries who foreign. We have countries with lots of arms and guns going into foreign other people's lands, much like Rome did, because it really is Rome.
I had spoken
Rome
before.
Reloaded.
I had spoken before. Many times actually, trying to educate and inform people that this isn't just the juvenile courts. It's the military-industrial complex as well. I mean, it's when I say there's a branch of CPS on every base. Since
that's really creepy. Now we know what the Red Cross was, and I'm sure if you go into the history of the Red Cross, you find out it's going to be some creepy origination, like it is in what they say Planned Parenthood. What had its origins as basic ethnic cleansing. A certain groups of people, like as a government funded program. And I wanted to bring this phrase up today because I just made a post on Facebook, and I really want to speak to this because the reason why I'm really good at explaining what a lot of people think is happening and putting them all together in their appropriate tangential or complex, fashion is because I understand that we are living in a theocratic nationalism where we have a state who is operating in a theology of how the state should be run and what the state should be based upon. Okay. That's fine in a republic sense that we've developed where the man is divine in their nature and that they do things for the betterment of humanity. In a republic sense, as a citizen of a republic, which is a nation where each man owns, and woman and child from their own nation, owns his or her own capita. Because people understand that the Empire of Rome came from a republic of people who gave them honors, these fasci. So it's that republic brought forth Rome, and we created a system of government based on that. Actually, in that, we're like Rome Reloaded. And we're returning the law back to the man. And so we're coming from, that's proper to live in a theology, a theocratic nationalism, which means you control the banking, the nation, not the country. The nationalism is how the country at large operates in commerce with others. And that's fine if the man is divine and righteous in his nature, which our system of government says all men are, that we're all created that way. So our argument is if you're divine in your nature when you're born, if the system of state is preying upon those which create that come from that divine nature, then that state has been corrupted by the theology, the theocratic nationalism that's been brought about by that power. So we have been ruled by a theocratic nationalism that believes that children and people can be conveyed as property. Our systems of nationalism that came forth from the opposite of that no man is our vicar, and that we are created in inequity and cannot be forced into servitude of the other states and states of men, against the will of our creation. That means if you're corrupted, it's from the state. Mm-hmm. So that corrupt state, we can now prove that we come from a corrupt theocratic nationalistic banking construct, mm-hmm. and it needs to be different. And I need people to understand it like that, because those terms, theocracy and nationalism brings with it banking code, laws. Okay, this is not as difficult as a construct we're really just flipping the coin. It's a flip of a switch, folks. It's that simple, and it's going to the root of what is driving our reality. Because theocratic nationalism applies to every blight and blunder and iniquity being oppressed upon children all over the world, no matter what nation is doing it. Uh-huh. I mean, So, okay, so does the theocracy, the theocratic nationalism, that the people who control your commerce, do they get to have the belief in their theocratic nationalism banking structure that babies can be sold as a commodity against their will without the consent of the families they were born to and the societies and the common law of their kin and folk and kith that they come from?
The bottom line is no, children cannot contract with the state. Absolutely not. Bottom line is no.
Right. And if there's going to be any change in where that child lies in their family or their kith, see, people forget there's a community here. The term kith is very important, because if you, in your family, you see another family's child be kidnapped by the state, you, as their kith, you don't even have to be related to them. A kith is the community around you, have been torted. Aren't you going to be fearful that people with guns from the state are going to come take your kid? Isn't that a tyranny of abuse? Especially if you're like, what makes you think you can take their kid,
I think, a lot of people are. A lot of people are concerned, and I think that's why a lot more people are tuning into the show as well, so that they can be
I just heard, right,
updated on, the landscape of this has changed so much in just such a short...
People are getting it. People are understanding what this is why I'm talking about what it actually is in sociological, philosophical constructs of the high philosophical laws of man. Okay, so in all the things that we would define how a reality is run, I'm going to tell you from my perspective, I would say that the issue is theocratic nationalism. Nations driven by theories, theologies, religions, cultism, fascism, ideological demagoguery, false idolatry, tyrannies of states of men, ruling over with the law of power in their doctrines of discovery and all these things that we have definitions for already and doctrines, to name them, in law that define how the bar of the banking will shift. We don't even need to change the system. We just need to insert the proper law and flip it in the other direction and get rid of the corruptions, the men and women in the system.
It's such a process. It's such a process, and some of these people, they don't even understand fully the bigger picture. They've been compartmentalized. I
don't think that the picture was completed till it literally had been completed by the statutes that brought it here. I mean, it's really like that. So to me, I just see I see the Ouroboros or whatever perfected. I see how the serpent is going to eat its own tail, that, the slime it leaves behind.
The Ouroboros. It's Ouroboros.
Beginning, the end, infinity, the alpha and the omega.
I love to be able to laugh every once in a while now. I treasure it.
Well, I mean, we really are theocratic. That is the gravamon of the iniquities of our time, is theocratic nationalism. De facto, and it's theocratic nationalism de facto, because they really are people who now are openly in systems of instruments of state not that far out of our personal reach. You probably know someone who.
So I want to bring up a story in the Porthole to Justice really quick. I just want to bring it to your attention. We had here in Texas the largest child porn site or bust in the history of the United States, I think.
How many days ago?
I think it was on the 14th.
So the day after the day after that was put into the news, didn't they have a school shooting down there?
Yeah, in Allen, Texas, it was 78 terabytes of child porn, and I suspect, because it was through child care, and so I suspect suspect that maybe they were contracted out by CPS, the state. I don't know. I would be curious to know, to find out.
I'm going to tell you the scary part of how ignorant and behind the law, the need for the statutization of these acts. And that in itself has also been obfuscated too. Attorneys are not bringing claims against the statutes as a union anymore whenever they're not compliant, when the claims aren't in compliance with statutes. They're writing bonds off things that are not in compliance with statutes, and that's a fraud against the American people and against the state. It's bond fraud, it's treasury fraud, it's international bond crimes. And these people are doing it for hidden masters in contract. It can be tracked. It's a contrived, concerted effort to defraud and extort, embezzle money, like that thing in Michigan, or not Michigan, Minnesota, that was just made the rounds through Facebook, that little expose.
I watched that. It was amazing. The admission.
And now that was just about child care units, open extortion. Now, you don't think that if they're lying about the child care, if they actually do run child care, and he said this was with the help, says the attorneys were creating shell corporations. So that means they had attorneys operating in league with them to defraud the state of Minnesota in their child care assistance programs. First off, I want to know, why do people who aren't working getting child care assistance through benefits in Minnesota when they're not even full status citizens? I have that question first off. Mm-hmm. That was astounding. That's my mom is a federal Social Security agent, was like, who's getting child care benefits through state benefits if they're not working? It was just like, she was like, what is going on in Minnesota, period, when it comes to the whole program? It sounds to me like there was a contrived effort within the states of Minnesota to defraud the American people at large through the Social Security administrative systems. That's what we're talking about with child trafficking. This is exactly, we're talking about federal grant fraud that in this case doesn't just include money. They're trafficking babies, folks. They are stealing. They're not just defrauding the American people like they're in this Minnesota claim, in these child care systems assistance programs for Muslim families. I just didn't understand the whole thing of why a state is providing child care assistance. If the state of Minnesota is providing child care assistance, then I'm going to tell you every person in Minnesota should be getting child care assistance, because there should be no citizen of the state of Minnesota that is getting some state benefit through the federal system that the state citizens are not getting from the state. And the state can pay for it. I don't think the state should be pulling federal funds to support immigrants when they won't spend the money proper on taxation for the same benefits for their state citizens. That was repugnant from my construct. I was just looking at it even in a broader sense. Does every Minnesota citizen get child support care from the state of Minnesota? I bet they don't. So now you're even talking about, why are we paying child care are all these people working? Because if they're staying home watching their kids, they're not working. Isn't that the implication? Not only were they getting child care for not working, they could get child care because there was no mandate that they had to be working to get it. What's that about? You understand what I'm saying? They weren't even required to provide payroll reports? That's ridiculous. You understand what I'm saying here? This is
fraud. The fraud is so bad. It's so bad, Lotus, that the people that really need the resources are not even getting it. I've had social workers come on my show and whistleblow. And
all the time. I whistleblow every time we talk.
Uh-huh.
I can tell you, we can prove these things, folks. There's laws against these things, and they're already in the books. You got people breaking laws within the statutes of state. You have people kidnapping children in the agencies within the statutes of states who are 100% violating those statutes willfully in a contrived fashion, and then using the judiciary to cover up kidnapping and crimes and treason and racketeering and criminal activity of organized fashion in RICO in the states of our union. It's called the judiciary and the bar unions. It's rampant with fraud.
Yep.
It's rampant.
Yep. I bet you Trump knows that too.
He doesn't have good people working for him. Because my opinion is, coming from where I see the grand scheme of things, or where I know when things are laid in the law, he was noticed, or he was asked to do what he was doing by the military, because I know I noticed the proper authorities as to what was going on in the bar unions of this country, and that they couldn't be trusted because by law they were foreign agents, and they've been hiding that fact that they're foreign agents in treaty with other people since 1812.
So where are we at with those cases that you filed? Any updates?
Oh, this last pay we just put in, we plead nothing. That we put in was basically we did what's called a motion in bank. You know, we have in the Seventh Circuit, we have an order that's unsigned with no one's name on it, no signature, but it's stamped by the clerk. So they wanted to make sure they threw their seal on it, and that's fine. We appreciate them throwing their broken seal our way. And I noticed the bank, which means all the administrators who run that clerk and are supposed to be there to make sure that no claims against fraud are brought through the clerk or had orders on them, or stamps are supposed to be administrating statutes or claims brought against the statutes. That's what you have to remember they're there for. That's why they're a bank. Claims brought against the statutes, which are bonds themselves, folks. So they're supposed to protect that clerk. Think of them as as the board of directors of the bank, the clerk for the Seventh Circuit. It's called a motion in bank. He said, here's where the claim lies. Kids, he's basically been commoditized by your acts, and you deprived him of this and that. I could put it up for the citation of where to get it. But more importantly, I noticed the Treasury and put an official claim of fraud upon every court case. The 14 cases that we filed alone on behalf of Clay, 14 cases, folks. In 14 cases, we haven't been able to get a merit review or proof of life. And this includes like 5 habeases, all of which have been shot down because we wouldn't pay a bar union member and were deprived of access to the bar in a habeas writ, mind you, and or where the habeas has been shut down or the claim has been shut down under immunity for the state from reversals of decisions, folks. Okay? So they're saying that they could kidnap a kid and claim immunity and not have to be paid to reverse the decision through the judiciary. Now, in a short period of time, we'll know if they're going to mandate us to go to Supreme Court. Direct. Basically send us all the way to Supreme Court. Now, if anybody does any research on how much it costs to get to Supreme Court in any one case, and how much they would expect a poor, disenfranchised young woman who's been attacked by the instruments of state and coerced into signing a plea agreement as a ransom demand to get her son back, who was literally kidnapped out the back door of a police station with 15 family members on their way. And the kid was healthy, wealthy, and wise, according to the CPS reports when they took him. So there was no emergent need, except for that he was with his mother during arrest, who a policeman gave to a bystander and told to deliver to the police department. This is clear kidnapping, folks. You're going to take a poor, disenfranchised woman who has a hearing deficiency. She's disabled. So they racketed her to plead to a plea agreement. None of the charges against my wife have anything to do with her possessions or her activities. She's been enjoined in actions as a passenger, a bystander. You have to remember that. She's never challenged that she was an addict or an abuser of marijuana. That's on the record. Mm-hmm. These are egregious things where they're putting women into prison and stealing their children in a contrived manner, and are able to do it because everything is stacked against them. And I mean everything, all the way to the Supreme Court, folks. That's state kidnapping. They've prevented in every way they can from a woman of her status.
And they sell the attorneys, the public, I think they're public attorneys by the state. They sell these babies that these women have in jail, I think for like $5,000. One attorney was caught.
Gosh.
She was actually caught, and there was a case. But they target these women, from very young age. They get them in the system, and they rack up these legal bills that they don't have the resources or the wherewithal to fight. And they end up, coming in and out of the jail system for petty things, and they get targeted for human trafficking. I've talked about this many, many times, these patterns that involve...
Well, the foster care system, haven't they said a certain, that there's more, that the preponderance of children found in child sex trade are from the foster care systems?
Exactly, yeah.
I mean, what they're doing is they're, first off, you have to think of the construct. And this is what needs to be reversed in the exact opposite direction. The state is profiting from failing in its mandate to secure a better civil society through the instruments of state and the bank of the people, mind you. They're using our money to do what they're doing to us. By law, that's what they're doing. In trust, meaning there's somebody supposed to pay for what they're doing to us in fraud, folks. We are being administrated in a trust. And you know who's responsible for those deeds? The queen, the matriarchy, the patriarchy, the pope, the people maintaining this theocratic nationalism of baby trading, and have in all the eons of their controls never decided to change their own personal practices. And in fact, have motivated their servants to reach further into our systems of state, including the instruments of the United States Corporation Company and the states thereof and your counties, to promote people who promote statutes to allow them to eat from your young. And I'm not understating what is happening.
No.
It is Moloch. It is Moloch. It is Kronos. It is Saturn. It is Saturnia cult worship. It is baby trafficking. It is the law of the Talmudic. It is the law of the wasabi. It is the law of the heretical cult of Rome that wraps itself in Christendom. It is a lot of things, folks. But the same people run all of them. It's theocratic nationalism. It's cult mentality. It's fascism and instruments of state that are teaching your children what they know in everything that they do, in their propaganda on TV, in the lies they teach them in their state schools, in the medicine they shove down their throats. It will change every construct of your daily lives. You thought you were living pretty good. Now suddenly you realize, oh my gosh, you're living in a horribly oppressive time. It is the pinnacle of disgusting, reprobate behavior from instruments of state. I mean, Rome fell for a reason. Rome fell because of its disgusting excesses.
I've recently been led to read. I've never read it before, but do you know about Caligula?
Yeah, absolutely. I talk about him, I think, in one of my videos. I mean, go watch the movie with Roddy McDowall, the unedited, unrated one. Go watch that one. That's the one to watch.
What is it called?
It's Caligula. There's an unrated one because it's really an X-rated movie. Uh-huh. It was really edited X-rated, and then you have to remember that was probably one of the movies that probably brought about the need for the ratings, which or they argued for it. But it shows the excess of Rome. I remember it. I watched it. I don't know. I was like a teenager, I think, maybe. And I remember his first act. He's walking. He's one of the things that introduce you to his character. This Caesar, emperor, the holder of 24 fasces. As he parades his new kingdom down and his new emperors, is he goes to a wedding and through his emperorness demands that the soon-to-be husband and soon-to-be wife, I think it was just married, they're at their eating ceremony after festival. He orders them into the kitchen, proceeds to rape the man with his fist and the woman himself, and say that was his gift to them as emperor. So their first act of sexuality is they're both virgins, is to rape both of them. That's the beginning of Caligula. And that is not a mischaracterization of what the Caesars during certain periods of Rome would do. That's the divine doctrine. That's the doctor of discovery. I own what I can take and see, and I deem reprobate if I can for my own personal use. It's the doctrine of discovery is the Pope's edict to allow the law of power under the name of the cult of Rome, wrapped in false Christendom, to go rape and pillage the world and bring the whole realm to the papacy, so that he could say he was the Pope of all the realm now. One world government. That's all we're in. We're in a period where the Pope made out a papal bull, doctrine of discovery, go conquer anything you can in my name. Yeah. Is what that means. With force, and you can do it for your own personal gain and lucre. Just keep conquering. Well, they've conquered down to the child in their Roman civil form, and I'm waiting for them for a long time. Thank you very much. Now we know who you are. Yeah. Now we know who to go to call the offsets and adjustments for the torts and the debts, and they shall pay. It's literally reversing the bar.
Do we know of any successful torts against CPS?
Well, yeah, we do. Well, we know that. We have the one that's just most recent that I actually cite, the case law. That's the case law I took down to Georgia with me, and basically got an attorney to be wise enough to recuse herself from the case. She professed to be a friend of the woman, of the grandmother. And after she did that, I said, well, then you have a moral responsibility to stop lying to her now that I've told you, and here's the law. And that case law is Lisa DeMare, wife, Anthony DeMare, husband, on behalf of themselves and as the natural guardians and guardians ad litem for their 3 minor children. This is with attorneys, of course, versus Laura Penderson, Amy Van Ness, defendants appellees. Now, this is in the United States Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit. This is case number 14-6207, number 2:11CV00046, capital R, capital O, capital S. This is an opinion. You can go watch this conversation about this opinion on YouTube. If you search Ninth Court of Appeals and put DeMare v. I think it's State, actually, is what it's listed as, because these are CPS workers that seized their children and then lied about the foundations for it.